on your risk management system. Let's face it, we would love to say that we lived in a perfect world where that there's, risks do not happen, but we know that risks are going to happen. So we need to identify all possible risks on the project and assign a probability of how likely they are to happen on the project, an impact, what is the cost going to be in money, what is the cost going to be to your schedule in order for this to happen. And then each of these risks need to be recorded in your risk register. Now looking at these, so your risk event, you want to describe it as well as you can. You want to look at, okay, what is the probability? How likely is that event to occur? And what is the amount at stake for the project? So example, say there's one manufacturing company that has to provide you with this widget, and it happens to be in a hurricane area that maybe on average, you've seen the statistics, it gets hit like every 3 years, and then they take maybe 6 months to rebuild the plant. So you have to define a probability for that, and then what is going to be the extra cost to your project if the hurricane hits during that time period that you needed that widget. So risk management, when you're looking at it, it is the art and the science of actually identifying the best way that you can what that all of those risks are, and then coming up with a mitigation plan how to handle them if there's a high enough probability and a high enough impact for those risks to actually happen on your project. Now once you've actually baselined your risk plan and you start the executing process, this is now where you're going to start monitoring the project and looking for when these possible risks may happen. You're looking for these triggers that you've identified, and if this happens, then you need to prepare to handle that risk on your project. So like, other aspects, of course, planning. Planning is so important. You want to do as much work as possible in the planning process for risks to identify what they are, because you may uncover a major risk that could stop the project right there. So it's better to find in the planning process than waiting until the executing process or you're halfway through and stop the project when you've already sunk so much money into that product or service. These are some of the important documents that you want to make sure that you have. A risk assessment document. So for each of the risks that's at a high impact, a high probability, you want to have some type of detailed assessment mitigation document. You want to make sure all of your risks, no matter how small, are in your risk register. And you want to have your risk management plan identifies all of your possible risks, how you're going to handle it. And remember, you have two different types of reserves. You have your contingency reserve for all of your known risks that are identified in that. Plus, you also have a management reserve for any of your unknown risks, so which could be 1% to 10% of your project, depending upon how much risk there is. Like for a construction type of project that you do over and over again, the unknown risk is probably only going to be 1 or 2%. But for a research and development project for a new pharmaceutical product, could be all the way up to 10%. So that's kind of how you need to keep in mind on what your management reserve may be. Now your critical path method is so important because this tells you the shortest completion time for your project. Plus it tells you what activities you have to start on time and finish on time to keep your project on track. So it's important when you're doing your project schedule. Every activity has to have a successor activity and a predecessor activity so that you can do the critical path on your project so that you know how to keep your schedule under control. This is an example of a project schedule, a very simple one, and this shows you the activities in red here is your critical path. Now this one in blue is not on your critical path. So meaning if this one slips 2 days, it's not going to affect the end date on the project. But if any of these in red slips even 1 day, then your end date is actually going to slip out on your project. So it's very important to know all of your critical activities. Now your advantages are when your manager says, you know, this schedule is too long, I want you to reduce this schedule. Well, by knowing your critical path, you know what activities that you need to either shorten by doing crashing, by putting extra resources on them, reducing that time, or knowing which activities that you can fast track by maybe doing them in parallel instead of one after the other. And you need to understand your schedule to be able to make that analysis on what is best to keep your schedule on track. And you want to make sure that you're continuing to watch those activities on the critical path, because as the project schedule progresses, some of those things that are no longer on your critical path can become on your critical path. So it's important as a project manager to keep an eye on that at all times. And you want to keep an open communication to all of your stakeholders to let them know what's going on the project so that maybe if there's a major problem, they can get their management involved to help you keep your project on track. Getting your team buy-in is so important because your team can make or break you on your project. You need to, give them that time, listen to their ideas, give them recognition for their ideas, and let them know how important they are to you on the project and where they fit within your project and within your work environment on the project. That only through them are they helping you make this project successful. You want to make sure that you give them clear, measurable direction so that they can accomplish what you want them to. And if you see that they're having some challenges, maybe doing their work, get them the training that they need so that they can be successful on the project. Because most people do want to be successful on the project. You may have to provide them with some coaching, some encouragement, maybe some feedback on how that they can improve. You want to make sure that you have the resources available to get the project done successfully. And always make sure you communicate to all of your project stakeholders. That is so critical on having a successful project. Part of getting that emotional buy-in from your team members can be as simple as asking them, how long will this take you to complete this activity? And take into consideration their input. And that makes them feel like that they are part of the team. And rewarding them. Simple rewards can be recognizing them at a team meeting for extra job well done by getting their activity maybe done ahead of time, or giving them some movie tickets to take their family out for a movie. There's all types of ways to help your team and give them that buy-in and make them feel more part of a team. That's very important for you to have a good relationship with your customer, to always treat your customer fairly, to keep your customer informed about how the project is doing or not doing. Maybe even get their help and their buy-in if you're having a problem getting a widget from a certain supplier. Maybe they have a pull to help you get it, or maybe they know of another supplier that you can use. I always find that it goes so much better if you can keep your customer involved in your project and keep them as a valuable part of your team. Keeping in mind your triple constraints, just remember that your time, cost, scope have a direct effect on each other. So if you add in more scope on your project, you have to add in more time and more cost. If you do not, it's probably going to have a direct effect on the quality of your product or service that you're creating. It's important as a project manager if you can have some input on who your team members are, and if a team member is not performing, you need to be able to have some avenue to remove them off from your team to help keep your project successful and not damage the morale of the other team members who are going out of their way to get the project completed successfully. So you want to make it your goal to produce a quality product or service. That means you're meeting the requirements that the customer has given you. So quality is determined, remember, by your customer. It's according to their requirements that they have given you. And also do not confuse quality with grade or with luxury. Quality is meeting the requirements that your customer has set out to say, this is what we want. So if they say that they want you to produce this pen and it needs to write for, I don't know, let's say 2 months. And as long as it writes for 2 months, it's met the quality requirements. If it falls apart after that, it doesn't matter. It's met the quality requirements that the customer has set forth. Treat your customer with respect. Treat all of your stakeholders with respect. Do what you say that you're going to do. Because let me tell you, if you cut corners and you lie about things and you try to cheat your customer, they're going to remember that. And you're not going to have those repeat customers. So it's very important to be straightforward and upfront with all of your stakeholders that you deal with. Well, let's just to review, what are those 10 secrets that you need to remember? Remember, you need to communicate, because you don't want to be one of those statistics of 80 to 90% of projects fail. Lack of communication. You need to manage all of your changes on your project. Have a good change control system. Remember, what is it with Murphy's Law? Anything that can go wrong will probably go wrong. So you better have that good risk plan to help you manage that and identify as many risks as possible and have a plan to handle them. Know your critical path so that you know what activities you need to keep on track to keep your project on track. And have that buy-in from your team, because remember, your team can make or break you as a project manager. You want to have an excellent relationship with your customer. Include them as part of your team and make sure that you keep open communication with them and understand what your triple constraints are, that your cost, time, scope, and quality all have a direct effect on each other. And just remember that, even if you are a little late on completing that project, if the product or service is of high quality, they're going to remember that for years to come. And remember, if you're not ethical with your customer, it will come back to bite you because you will not have that customer as a repeat customer. Thank you for your time, and let us know if you have any questions on this. We'd be more than happy to help you out. Thank you.